Straying, you're delaying, are you praying no more? What you playing those for? I played my card right twice.
Welcome in. It is the Thursday edition, section 1904. Hope everybody's having a great day. By the time people listen to this, we're recording this. The Padres are due to play in about 10 minutes as we're getting rolling here this morning. So we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about the Padres since they're literally playing a game and something could happen or something could not happen because things have not happened a lot recently for the Padres. So we'll probably skip a lot of Padre talk here today. I do appreciate everybody who's been checking in on my mental health, what's happened with the New York Knicks over the last 12, 14 hours. I do appreciate friends of the podcast who have checked in personally to see how I'm doing, including former colleagues from iHeart. Doing okay. I'm doing okay.
Hey, wait.
Thankfully, we have a podcast here where we can let all of our sports feelings out, especially during Mental Health Awareness Month. John, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great because I've no stake in that game. I was going to ask you how you thought Kevin Acey's mental health was because I noticed the tidbits were back this morning.
I did. It's one of the first things that I checked. I wanted to see if Kevin would punish us for the Padres' pathetic performance in Toronto. He did include tidbits, and I do appreciate that. So I'm just glad that Kevin isn't taking this losing out on us, his readers, because I enjoy the tidbits. I like the Padre Daily. I oftentimes and have oftentimes disagreed with some of the conclusions that Kevin Acey draws in some of his writing, including some of the stuff that we talked about yesterday. But I do appreciate the effort that goes into what it is that Kevin does. I don't care about the game stories.
Right.
You can get AI to write game stories. But the tidbits and some of the other features there, I do appreciate the work that goes into it.
Actually,
and I woke up this morning and all I had on the mind was the Knicks. Like literally waking up at 5:30 staring at the ceiling while my wife was tossing and turning. And I was like literally staring at the ceiling thinking like, how am I going to put this into words later on today? Am I really bothered by this? Why is this worth it? Why do I feel this way? Having all those sorts of inner conversations, inner dialogue with myself. And then I said, well, I hope Kevin Acey has provided us with tidbits because at least that'll get the day going on the right note. And Kevin did. So we'll see what happens in the Padre game. I did think, I always like that people now, it seems like more and more a trend, John, in sports. And I saw this. I actually saw some of these clips yesterday. You and I went out for lunch, an innocent lunch, honestly. What started out to be as an innocent lunch yesterday turned into something completely different.
Do you remember the criteria I gave you? I was like, somewhere in between us that has decent food, beer, and would have the soccer game on. That's all we were looking for.
Well, we did find that place.
We did.
Little did we know that 300 other people had found that place as well.
Before us,
anyhow, we'll get to that here in a moment. But that was a ton of fun. Where was I going with this?
I don't know, but wait, I want to interrupt because you read Acey's daily thing this morning. Tidbits, all that. Did you read the thing on Yu Darvish that I think
I did. I actually wrote it down that he's feeling residual effects.
Not only does it say, there's
he's not feeling right, even though he threw 97 miles per hour. I just jotted that down in my notes.
Right. He's told the Padres he's not feeling right. This is really bad news. Like we're not spending a lot of time on Padres today, and that makes sense. But like we talked a little bit with Dylan yesterday about how like you kind of with Yu Darvish, we're at the like until we see him pitching and he's healthy, we just have to assume that he's not and he won't be. That's very bad. That's very bad that Yu Darvish threw like 40 pitches in a AAA game, and now he's like, I don't feel right. I need to take a break. They were like, and now that first it was like he's going to be in Toronto, he's going to be in Atlanta. Now they're like, no, he's just going to stay home. And I'm assuming he needs another rehab start now, right? He's got to throw and prove that he can feel right after he throws before they're going to let him pitch in a big league game. I don't know. The Darvish stuff, just as like kind of a quick aside, is terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't read well. No. It doesn't read like it's at all inspirational. And I'm trying to find, like I said, I just jotted down a couple of the keywords that Kevin wrote. And people should read this. People should go back and read what it is that Kevin is reporting here. I don't even know that it's in the story that I'm scrolling through. But he did write residual effects and not feeling right. Darvish himself says he is not feeling right. Some elbow complications over the last couple of years. He did throw 97 miles per hour, which you'd think is good, but it's just it seems like it's a bit of a concern.
Yeah, and I knew Darvish was up there in age, but he's 38 and he's already gone through Tommy John surgery. Like if this, if all these forearm, elbow, whatever things end up in another Tommy John for him, that's probably it. That's probably the career for him. I don't imagine he comes back from that. It even like there's a thing about Musgrove under it. Musgrove is like, hey, I want to get
Kevin
back.
trying to balance out the bad news with a little bit
Right,
of
and Musgrove wants to come back and pitch out of the bullpen in the playoffs and blah blah. And I just realized now when I went back to the article that I didn't even bother to read the Musgrove stuff. I just read the Darvish stuff and closed it. I was like, that makes me so upset. I hate that.
Yeah, I don't love it. I don't love it. You know, it is Padre baseball, like we said yesterday. Dylan from Letters to AJ joined us. If you missed it, you missed a great podcast. But you know, it is Padre baseball is often, you know, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And, you know, that's kind of where we're at with Darvish. None of that stuff read well at all. So
Dylan sent me a text after the loss yesterday, the 12-0 loss or whatever it was, that I think it's a quote that he said on the podcast yesterday too. And he was like, I wish I could remember who said the first rule of Padres baseball is there's always a deeper darkness. Always. And I was thinking about that this morning when I saw the Darvish thing. I'm like, damn it, man, really?
I remember when I was doing the pregame show with Randy Jones and Tim Flannery, I said something to that effect. Young and naive as I was back in the day, John. And I did say something like, well, the good news is it probably can't get worse than this. And Flannery looked at me and he's like, oh, it can. I'm a career Padre. It can get worse than this. You have no idea what you're talking about at all. Yeah. I was like, he's like, never say that. Never say, well, it can't get worse, right? It can always get worse. There's always another layer of how it gets worse. But I feel like I'm also just being bombarded with numbers and stats. Whether it's the Knicks and this futility from last night or whether it's some of the Padres stuff. I read this today. According to Stats Perform, only one other team has scored 3 or fewer runs, allowed more than 30 runs, allowed 10 or more homers, and committed 5 or more errors during a 5-game stretch, as the Padres have done in the last 5 games. The other was the 1969 Padres, their first 5 losses in franchise history. I'm like, who even looks this stuff up? I mean, what kind of stat is that? I'll read it again. Only one other team has scored 3 or fewer runs, allowed more than 30, allowed 10 or more homers, and committed 5 or more errors during a 5-game stretch. That's what the Padres, that's the streak that they are on.
You're bad at everything.
Yes.
And actually,
as we're recording here this morning, and the only other team to have done that is the 1969 Padres in baseball history. Wow.
Was that their inaugural season?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. There was a conversation in our Discord this morning, in the Padres channel of our Discord, where there's a contingent that's basically like, AJ is bad at roster construction. This proves it. It's time to like hold his feet to the fire or maybe get rid of him or whatever. And like, I went in there, I try to let the community, have its own conversations, but I went in there. I was like, are you guys forgetting the 20 years before AJ Preller? Like this was a horrible team to follow. Like, I understand they're not the Dodgers right now and that they're going through a tough skid here, but Jesus.
Well, I mean, I think part of the problem though, is, they're not losing, you could say all losses are equal. I don't know that I agree with that. They're not losing 7-6, right? They're losing these games. They're not scoring and they're not hitting. And you have no confidence. And oftentimes that is rightfully associated with being listless, with being lifeless, with being disinterested, which I think is oftentimes a bit unfair. It's not to suggest these guys aren't trying. I do think that they are trying. But that being said, they are not succeeding and they get paid to succeed. And Major League Baseball is not a try league. It is a do league, especially when we're talking about some of the players that we're talking about who are well compensated, most notably being Manny Machado. So, I think that's part of it. It's like, God, like would it be better if they just lost the last 5 games, 8-7, 7-5, 10-6? Probably, because at least you'd be like, yeah, it doesn't seem like they're going through the motions. But this has just been all of the things that they've done, I mean, 3 errors in an inning, like what is that? Yeah. I mean, I would have bet $1 billion that we wouldn't have seen that in our lifetime from Manny Machado. Yeah. But, that being said, it is what it is that's happening out there. And, it just makes everything look bad. And especially when you're not hitting, say what you will about some of the years of players or teams of yesteryear. But, losing games 8-7 felt a lot better than losing games 5-1, where you can't get a hit. 0 for 33, I think it is, as we're recording here, 0 for 32, with runners in scoring position over the last 5. So who knows? By the time people listen to this, the Padres might have erupted for 15 runs, so we don't want to go too far down the road. But I understand. I mean, it's one thing to be bad. It's another thing to be bad and boring. And they're just bad and boring right now, and that's a problem.
Yeah, but that doesn't feel like a roster construction problem to me. Like, this feels more like I don't know, almost a chemistry managerial, like where's your fight kind of problem. Like
Right.
we've seen this exact team be good. It's the same exact team that was good. It's pretty much the same exact team that was good at the end of last year.
Yeah.
It's definitely the same team that was good like a month ago, and I don't think it's a roster construction problem.
You sound like Mike Schultz. This is what Mike Schultz said yesterday in his post-game press conference when somebody asked about the lineup. He's like, people are asking me about the lineup. 3 weeks ago, everybody was telling me how good this lineup is. Now everybody's asking me if I need to do something different with the lineup. Well, guess what, Mike? That's why you get paid the big bucks.
You got to do something. You have to do something. You can't just do nothing and hope that it changes. You got to do something. I just don't know what that is.
I don't know. We'll see. Again, this game starts here in a couple of minutes. John and I are recording in the morning. So yesterday, we got done with the podcast, and we posted it. And John, who lives in Carlsbad, myself, I live in Imperial Beach. We have to find a neutral destination for lunch. And John wanted to watch the Europa League final. It was between Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United. And we said, okay, centrally located. I'm always looking for a reason to go to North Park. And shout out to my buddy Adam Cook, who owns Fair Play, always treats us well there. And we said, let's go to Fair Play. And Fair Play's got a ton of televisions. It's a soccer bar. So I have a feeling we could go in. We can have some good food. We could watch the match. We don't have to worry about explaining how to find the match on television. They'll have it on TV.
Yeah.
And as I'm driving up, I started remembering, I think Tottenham Hotspur fans, I think Spurs fans, I think they might go there, but I'm not sure. Last I checked in with the local supporters group SD Spurs, they were hanging out at the Harp in Ocean Beach. The Harp has new ownership, so maybe that had changed, but I wasn't quite clear on it. Anyway, I parked my car, got into North Park, and I could hear people cheering from about a block and a half away because we were late. I didn't get there till about 30 minutes into the first half, 20, 30 minutes into the first half, and the place is packed. And now we're committed, and I'm like, I called Adam, who's the owner, who's been a guest on the show when we used to do the radio show from Fair Play in North Park, and said, are you guys at capacity? He's like, just find me in the back. It's cool. You'll come find me. The joint was jumping. I mean, the joint was absolutely jumping. The place was humming. It's a Wednesday afternoon. It's 12 o'clock. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that are crammed in the Fair Play. They're hanging out there on the street. People are eating. People are drinking. They're watching this match, which admittedly was not a great match. But, it was good enough if you're a Tottenham fan. And John then joined us a little later. Got there, I think, about halftime or just before.
Yeah.
And, man, we got to connect with so many people who we haven't seen in such a long time. And what a wonderful thing to stumble into, John, that you and I just happened to find ourselves in the situation yesterday, which turned out to be just an incredible scene. Spurs go on and win it. Tottenham wins the Europa League. They're eligible for Champions League play next year, which means an insane amount of money, $50-60 million, whatever it is. But what a great time it was in the middle of the day yesterday. Totally two unsuspecting people walking in the Fair Play and finding ourselves in that environment.
Yeah, three things. One, come on, you Spurs. Two, at one point after the game, my wife texted and was just like, hey, any idea when you'll be home? And I was like, yeah, I'll probably be home around 4. By the way, I'm covered in beer from head to toe. And she was like, I thought you guys went out to lunch. And I was like, yeah, we stumbled into something that was really fun and really exciting, and I'll tell you all about it when I get home.
By the way, Rebecca, this is just for you. This is what it's like sometimes when you go out for lunch with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just come home covered in beer. You never really know what's going to happen. So
Actually,
anyway, please go ahead.
I don't know if you remember this. The first time I ever met your wife, you were like, "This is the John that I've hung out with a few times. I've told you about." And she looked me dead in the eye and she went, "Oh, you're the one who always sends my husband home drunk." So I think it goes both ways. The third thing was at one point, and like the vibes in that place for the Spurs were incredible, because as bad of a match as it was, every little play that went in Tottenham's direction, Man U's threatening and a defender steals the ball, the place would explode like they just won the damn Super Bowl, and it made the game seem exciting, right? And there was, like you said, probably about 300 people jammed into this bar, all paying attention to the game, all reacting to every minute of the game, all very happy outside of the several Man U fans that were there. And I remember at some point, me and you just looking at each other and going, it's noon on a Wednesday. There's like 300 people here losing their damn minds to a game on the other side of the world, and it's noon on a Wednesday. Like, people are taking off work for this. People are building their lives around this. And that was just, it's fun. I haven't really been in that kind of environment with just like diehard Spurs fans during a Spurs game in a while. But it's also fun to do it on like a Wednesday afternoon and be like, man, it's not just you and me who care about soccer, Darren, and it's not just the SDFC people either. Like, soccer is a big fucking deal in San Diego.
It is a big deal, and I think there's a lot of crossovers. As a matter of fact, we're going to reconnect with somebody who I don't think I've spoken to in several years. I want to say it was the last time that Tottenham was in a final. They were in the Champions League final back in 2019, and I was in Madrid. And that's one of the worst. We're going to talk about some of the worst losses of my fandom of my life, because we have another one to add to the list.
Yeah.
But one of the worst losses ever for me as a fan is when Barcelona lost to Liverpool, second leg Champions League semifinal back in 2019, because I was going to Madrid for the final. And so Liverpool ends up playing Tottenham. And I think that's the last time I talked with Ben Forman. Ben's going to join us. He is the founder of the local supporters group, SD Spurs. I haven't seen Ben probably in a few years. I haven't connected with him. As a matter of fact, I went through my text messages. The last time I texted Ben, I was in Madrid for the final, and I was sending him videos of Spurs fans jumping up and down and doing all this sort of fun stuff. So we saw him yesterday. He's a grown man. He's a dad. There were other grown men there. There were people who were emotional about watching this club win. But there's also a ton of crossover. You mentioned not just SDFC fans. You know, these aren't things that are necessarily separate from one another. You know, Ben is a season ticket member at SDFC. So, you know, this is why SDFC wanted to come here. They knew that there was this passion for the sport. And, you know, I'm around the team a lot. They understand that people are Barcelona fans or Tottenham fans or Arsenal fans or whomever. They understand all of that. But, you know, the goal is to turn everybody into an SDFC fan over the next couple of decades, and you know, they're off to a great start doing that. But what a scene yesterday at Fair Play. I mean, like I said, I had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, and Ben was right in the middle of it all. So we will talk to him here in a moment. I mentioned terrible losses. Listen, you know, we talked a little bit about.
Should we wait and do Knicks later, or you want to do it now?
You want to talk to Ben? Should we get into Ben here, and so it puts me in a good mood?
Let's get into Ben and talk about the good mood, and then I'll see if I can help you through the Knicks game later.
All right. Yeah. Let's do that instead. So, like I said, I have a bunch of stats here in front of me. I'm drowning in stats, from the Padres to the Knicks, even to Tottenham, which, you know, had one shot on target yesterday and made the most of it, didn't it?
That's all you needed.
But the founder of SD Spurs, the local Tottenham Hotspur supporters group, Ben Forman, joined Section 1904. All right, well, as we said a little bit earlier here on Section 1904, I had no idea what we were getting ourselves into yesterday. I figured there'd be some Spurs fans at Fair Play in North Park. I had no idea it would be standing room only, approaching capacity. And it was great to reconnect with the founder of SD Spurs. This is the supporters group here locally. He's Ben Forman. We've talked to him a million times before. He was having himself the best day of his life, and we shamed him. We actually had a pretty big name guest lined up for today. And I said, Ben, listen, you doused us with water. The least you can do is work your way through a hangover to join us here on the podcast. So, Ben, welcome back. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to all the SD Spurs fans and all the Tottenham Hotspurs fans all across the world. How you doing?
This is the best hangover I've ever had in my life.
Is it? Is it? I would imagine it is. You guys have waited 17 years for a trophy. And as I said a little bit earlier, there were grown men who were in tears at the end of that match yesterday, watching Tottenham take down Manchester United. Tell us why this is so impactful and so important for all you guys.
I mean, like you just said, it's been 17 years. We won the League Cup in 2008. We've had a lot of chances since. And I will happily admit that I was one of those grown men in absolute tears. When we scored the first goal, my reaction was basically elation followed by instantaneous crying. You know, the last 10 minutes of the match, I couldn't keep it in anymore. I think all I was just sitting there saying was just please, please, please. And it's amazing. You know, I have watched sports my entire life, my entire adult life, but I'll be honest, I've never connected with anything quite the way that I connected with Spurs. So this has been something that for me is just, you know, it's the absolute pinnacle. You know, I I think a lot of us, and I've talked with many people, I think John and I have talked about this a few times before in the past, that like 2019, when we went to that Champions League final, was something that it sucked the wind out of our sails so much to be so high and have this feeling of like, oh, we might be able to do this. This might be our year. And then, everything that happened in that game to happen the way it did. And then, it just kind of, like I said, it sucked the wind out of our sails. And then this season to have such a terrible domestic season, yet to ultimately come into that game feeling, this feeling of who knows, it's one game. The best thing about any final is that it doesn't matter what your season's been like. It doesn't matter what your record against that team might have been. It's one single game. And whoever's the best team that day, comes away lifting a cup. And here we are this morning.
All right, I'm gonna. This is a little bit of a therapy session for me, as like a lapsed Spurs fan, because there was a period in which I was watching every game, even the ones that are at 5:30 in the morning. I was regularly hanging out with you, Ben, and the supporters group at the Harp or wherever, and I learned the chants, and I was singing, and I knew about the coaching and the strategy and the players and the depth and everything. And over the last couple years, partially because I moved up here, life got a little busier. Following an EPL team is really hard. Like on the West Coast, like it's just, they play at odd hours and on odd days. It's not like the NFL or even baseball or basketball where you can just watch it at the end of your day or during your weekend. Like we were literally watching it with a ton of Spurs fans Wednesday at noon, right? So I've drifted away from the team a little bit. But when I've checked in this year, it's been like, oh, God, this is bad. Like, this is a bad team. They might be headed to a bad place. Maybe I'll just, sink to the back. And when they have a new coach and a new direction, I'll show up and I'll learn whatever that is because this seems like it's running out. As you said, in that game, it was kind of a who knows, anyone can win. But, like, does this change how you feel about the team, the future, and, like, where the Spurs are going? Or is it just, like, one game and that was great?
No, it reinvigorates my absolute adoration for this team. I think going into this game, I said that if we lost, I would have had to basically just come along and step back 100% all summer, turn off my notifications, probably unfollow a bunch of stuff on social media and just have, okay, I'm done. I'll find out who our manager is day one of next season.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep doing it to myself, because for anyone that, really, really, truly follows a team and is in it for the long haul. And like you said, waking up 4:30, 5 in the morning sometimes to watch this team. And, I was deployed this past year, so I was having to watch certain games at 3 a.m. It was pretty rough. But this is just incredible. And, the amount of effort that I feel like any fan of European football watches, like the amount of effort they put in is unparalleled in American sports. It's so easy to come along and be like, oh yeah, well, I didn't catch the game, but maybe I'll a buddy at work is going to tell me what happened in the Padres game last night.
Yeah.
Or, like, oh, I didn't get to watch, the first half of the Lakers game or whatever it is you might be watching. Oh, let me turn on SportsCenter and just watch some highlights and no big deal, right? And to know what happened, to have the level of commitment that people over here are putting in, it just makes it feel that much better. And
you're right.
Man,
I mean, it is.
amazing.
It's a commitment. It's a lifestyle. It's all of those things as well. And, you said it so well there, right? Like, I'm not a Spurs fan, and the club that I support, the pressure they feel is to win everything, where the pressure that Spurs fans or Palace fans feel is just to win something. And, sitting there yesterday at Fair Play, for those that don't follow this sport, Ben, they would think that Tottenham was having the greatest season of all time, that there was no controversy. And, that's just how much you guys enjoy the club. And I think you make a great point here. It's been a shit season in the Premier League, right? 17th, I think it is, 16th, 17th, whatever.
17th.
Yeah, and knocked out of a couple of different competitions. But there they were still, like, defending like their lives depended on it at the end of that match. If that isn't the beauty of football, if that isn't the beauty of the sport in a nutshell, whether people care about Tottenham or not, that is what it's all about there. Just watching what that was, one last opportunity to salvage a season through all of this disappointment. Like, that's everything about the sport, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's really important to remember, and this is one of the huge differences between this sport and American sports, is that you're in separate competitions, right? So yeah, maybe we came in 17th in the Premier League, but we lifted a trophy, and sport is about winning, right? So if we won something, we had a successful season. Maybe we didn't have a successful domestic season, but we had a successful season. And I'm going to get this in because I know it hurts. If you finish second and get knocked out of the Champions League and you don't win, you had a less successful season than we did. So Spurs on top, Arsenal on the bottom.
Can I ask though? Because I do wonder this, and I think you'll understand the question. The raw emotion of winning, is it more about lifting a cup, or is it more about the winner of Europa League qualifies for Champions League? You know what I mean? Like there's two, and the two things are the same. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. It can be both, and it should be both, right? That's changing money for Spurs. That might be the difference for somebody out on the transfer market choosing between Manchester United and Tottenham. Seriously, but like the feeling of lifting a cup, to me, the feeling of winning something and everything else that comes with it is great. The $50+ million, like I said, getting into Champions League next year, that's potentially changing the way that Spurs operate this into the summer. But what is it? Like, what was the better feeling? All of that sort of stuff that you always have to explain, or just the raw emotion of, hey, their son raising the cup there on a podium with confetti falling down?
It's the raw emotion. I mean, the side of me that watches and analyzes and, thinks about these things, because obviously any serious fan is doing that stuff. But that's not what it's about as a fan. The money is great. Champions League football is incredible. It's a wonderful side effect, but I care about lifting that cup.
Okay, speaking of this and tying it into my previous question, right after the match ended yesterday, after I got doused in beer and eventually made my way to the back wall where Darren was hanging out with the cool kids, I opened up social media and I'm like, I wonder what everyone's saying. And obviously I follow a lot of Spurs fans and I'm friends with a lot of Spurs fans. And the first post I saw, which I think was on Blue Sky, just said, Sonny's going to raise a cup. And like that was like, it felt like such a special thing to Spurs fans. Like Sonny's going to raise a cup. And this is not the last time I saw you before yesterday, but like, I remember going to a game at probably still then Qualcomm Stadium that was Tottenham versus someone else in some sort of friendly. I think you got a picture with your daughter being held by Pochettino. And I remember looking at the team and being like, they have Lloris, they have Kane, they have Dele Alli, they have this guy Sonny who was in his like second or third year with the team. And I'm like, they're just built so great for the next like 5 to 10 years. Like they're going to be awesome. And I don't think Kane ever raised a cup with Tottenham. I know Dele Alli never raised a cup with Tottenham. And I don't think Hugo did either. So it's like, how special is it that Sonny, being the one from like that group that I remember, is like still here. He went from being like the youthful, like the new blood coming in and kind of changing the offense a little bit, to being like kind of the centerpiece and the graybeard of this team, to be the one still here raising the cup.
It's incredible. And I mean, for someone that good to have stayed with a team like Tottenham Hotspur for so long, it means everything.
Yeah.
The fact that somebody came along, because, with these things, especially as an American, let's say you were sort of new to the team and you were watching for a year or two and you're like, something, I don't want to watch a team that's going to wind up being this bad. And, maybe you jump ship. I'm not saying that's the thing to do. I think that many of us that are seriously into sports understand you make the commitment. But that's what Son did, right? He made the commitment and he said, I'm going to lift a trophy for this football club. And yeah, maybe it took him 10 years, but he lifted a trophy with his football club. So Odegaard can take a picture of that.
I just love how spicy it is towards Arsenal this morning as well. I do love that. You know, I keep thinking about it too. You finish second in the Premier League, and Newcastle's got a trophy, and Palace has a trophy, and Spurs have a trophy, and Liverpool wins the league, and here's Arsenal and their manager trying to convince everybody they're the best team in Europe. Okay, well, good luck with that.
Hey, it's the year of the birds. It's the year of the birds.
It is. Tell us your thoughts. I mean, I don't know what the future is for the manager, Ange Postecoglou. He's man, it was tough watching some of those press conferences. You know, like I got to like Ange a lot when he was coaching Celtic. I thought it was really classy, by the way, Celtic Football Club to congratulate Ange out there on social media. But regardless of what his future is, Ben, I don't know if you have a read on that, but you know, what does he represent? Like, what does he mean to Tottenham fans?
It's a really strange thing, right? Because he did have a very bad season and domestically. And it's very hard to, I guess, disassociate the success that we just had versus the domestic league. And I texted some friends this morning that my kind of take on it has changed. Because about a week ago, I'd kind of said, like, look, I think that this has probably run his course, and it's probably time for him to step away. And I'm well aware that I'm biased in saying this. Now, give him another season. You might as well. You've got the unity of the club. You've got every single person that plays for him completely behind him right now. He's going to be able to get in even better players now that he has Champions League football to offer. Give him a season, see how it goes. And, you know, because look, I'll take 17th every single season if it means that we're lifting Champions League, we're lifting the FA Cup. You know, it's just one, it's just one thing. If we can come along and just be like, oh, we're going to get into the Champions League every year by just winning in Europe, I'll take it.
All right, well, you guys have one match to go. You guys, I did not realize, I swear, John and I, we were talking about, we did the podcast yesterday. We're like, oh, let's go meet for lunch. I was like, where can we go? Halfway in between where John lives and where I live in Imperial Beach. I said North Park, and then I started thinking, okay, Europa League. I think United is getting together at Bluefoot, so I don't really want to go there. I think I know a couple of Spurs fans go to Fair Play. I didn't realize you guys were going to take that place over, though. My goodness, that scene yesterday was unbelievable. You had to be close to capacity with what was going on there. I must admit, I missed it that you guys had relocated.
Yeah, so we, pretty much it was kind of COVID and a little bit afterwards. We had a little bit of the changing of the guard. You know, I'd been running San Diego Spurs for quite some time, and a couple years ago, Sal kind of took the reins and, you know, wanted to make some changes, which is totally fine. You know, I think a lot of people wanted it to be a little bit more centrally located. So moving from Ocean Beach to North Park made a lot of sense. Fair Play has welcomed us with open arms, and as you saw, I mean, we can get a whole lot of people, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't understand is the pull of this club. You know, that on a Wednesday to have easily 300 plus people in there, I think it says everything.
It does indeed. Like we mentioned, one more match coming up this weekend, a home match against Brighton. So I'm sure all of the celebrations will continue through the weekend as well. He's the founder of SD Spurs. Find them on social media at SD Spurs. Ben, good to reconnect with you. Thanks for doing this, and again, thanks for the shower yesterday at Fair Play.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see you guys. We got to get together some drinks sometime.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you to Ben. Appreciate it. Good to reconnect with him. And as we said, it's the least we could do. He just literally walked past us and just started throwing cups of water on John. I used John as a human shield. I hid behind him so that I didn't get doused with the water that was being tossed around Fair Play yesterday. I'm sure that was a heck of a cleanup job. I hope they tipped their bartender. Our guy Donnie. I hope they tipped Donnie.
It was like 15 minutes after they left, and you and me were about to leave, and we looked up, and all the flags and all the wood that's holding the ceiling up was all still just dripping with beer down on everything. And it's like, man, this place is they should have left a good tip. I hope they did. Yes,
indeed. All right. Well, it was an eventful night in the Eastern Conference Finals. Game number one, certainly one that I think a lot of people will remember for a long time. As mentioned, I woke up this morning and just stared at the ceiling, trying to figure out exactly where this loss ranks amongst all the disappointing losses that I've watched the New York Knicks suffer through in my 52 years of existence. going back 40 fucking years with this team. And it's on that list. It is definitely on that list. I think the group chat, which has been kind of quiet since Halliburton shot, I think the group chat has at least decided it is a top 3, which should tell you something if you're new to basketball, that this might be a top 3 all-time loss for the Knicks. Maybe top 5, depending on how far back you go. I wouldn't say it was the worst in Knicks history. That to me is still Game 7 in my lifetime, where John Starks went 2 for 19, 0 for 11 from three-point range. Yes, I have these statistics burned into my memory. Or maybe it was the Reggie Miller game, although the Knicks ended up winning that series. Or maybe it was Charles Smith, who couldn't dunk a basketball from point-blank range in game number 5 of the 1993 Eastern Conference Finals against the Chicago Bulls. You know, that big useless load that he is, sitting there right underneath the basket. That one is one that haunts me. But this one has the potential. It definitely has the potential, watching what it was that happened. And again, all these statistics that I've talked about, which one is the one that stands out to you? That teams were 970-0 when they led by 14 points with 3 minutes to go? Or was it that teams were 1,414 when they were trailing by 9 points within the final minute of a game? I mean, I don't even know which one of these stats is supposed to hurt the most.
Okay. I was gonna just real quick. What was the game that ended on the Ewing missed layup? Is that the one where Starks went 0 for 11?
No. That was a game against the Pacers.
Was that the
game
Reggie
where
Miller
Starks was
series?
0 for 11 was Game 7 of the NBA Finals against the Rockets.
That's right.
That was the one that you're talking about. Was 1995 Game 7 against Indiana. That was the Eastern Conference semifinals, and that's the one where Ewing had the finger roll right there. And everybody always asked, why didn't he dunk the basketball? It's because Patrick Ewing had notoriously small hands and didn't dunk the basketball in that spot. He tried to finger roll it and he missed it. The Knicks would have won. They would have advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think they would have advanced to the finals because they had to get through Baby Shaq at that point. But yes, that was 1995 Game 7 against Indiana. So yes, this is that's on the list as well. That's
all right. I'm very sorry that you had to deal with all of this. Although it is tremendous content. I'm going to start with the bad stuff and try and end on a positive note for you. Positive for me and other people who have been watching basketball for 30 plus years. That was an absolutely thrilling game of basketball where more than 2 players, maybe as many as 5, had like one of the best games of their career. Tyrese Halliburton was great. Aaron Nesmith, we'll get back to him. Obi Toppin had the game of his life. And even on the Knicks, like Jalen Brunson had a great game outside of being in foul trouble. I thought that was the best Cat game for the whole playoffs. He was fantastic the entire game. I don't even know where he ended up on fouls, but he never seemed to get in foul trouble. He was just doing a little bit of everything. It was a great game. It was a wildly entertaining game. It ends on a last-second shot that bounces 10 feet in the air before coming down through the hoop and the Pacers thought it was a game winner. It turned out his toe was on the line. You go into overtime. You have this crazy, thrilling overtime
Was that
game.
a good shot, by the way? I mean, let's be honest about the Halliburton shot. Credit to him that he makes it, but was that a good shot that he took? He had a lane to get to the basket. He turns around. He does a 180. To his credit, he did look up at the shot clock on the far side of the court. He turned around. He threw up what was essentially a brick because it hit the back of the rim. It bounced straight up into the air and magically just fell through the hoop. And this is where you start believing that somehow the universe is just against you. Like, that wasn't even a good shot. He somehow got that shot to fall at the end of regulation.
I'm gonna quote Patrick Ewing at you, by the way. He did this at Georgetown as a coach when someone took a step back shot to try and win a game for Georgetown and missed it. And there's a microphone in the huddle that catches Patrick Ewing yelling at the kid and going, "Do you practice that shot? Is that a shot that you've ever taken before?" That is a shot that Tyrese Halliburton takes a lot. He plays...
Where he runs to the free throw line, does a 180, turns around, throws the ball up at the rim. It bounces off the back and goes up 10 feet in the air and falls through.
No, the bounce is new. But he does that Steve Nash thing where he'll be moving towards the hoop and all of a sudden he'll stop, turn around, and he'll be moving away from the hoop. And right when everyone's going, wait, where the hell is he going? He turns around and makes a shot. And it really freaks out defenses. It freaked out defenses when Steve Nash did it. It freaks out defenses when Tyrese Halliburton did it. So yeah, good shot for him, a person who takes that shot more often than other people. But just a thrilling, entertaining game. That being said, the only reason that anyone was in that position, Knicks or Pacers or fans, is because Aaron Nesmith went 8 for 9 from 3 in the game, and I think he hit 7 of them consecutively.
Yeah, it was insane.
And they were pretty much all in the fourth quarter. I don't know that I've seen a heater like that before. Like, that would rank highly amongst Steph Curry career highlights. That it was just insane. And from a guy who's not really known as being a great 3-point shooter, it was just crazy to the point of being an anomaly. Now, does that mean that the Knicks are going to, steamroll the Pacers in the next 4 games because Aaron Nesmith's not going to do that again? No, but it means it's possible. I still think the Knicks at the end of this game proved that they were the better team. And they were even quoted after the game as saying, like, yeah, we kind of let our foot up off the gas because we had such a big lead and there was so little time left. That's on us. It's a good lesson for them to learn. I think they'll be better going forward in these types of situations. They'll learn to never let their foot up off the gas. And I don't think Aaron Nesmith is ever going to make 8 of 9 3-pointers in a game again for the rest of his life, unless he's playing, at the local YMCA. So there's some good in there. It required an otherworldly heater to get the Pacers back in the game in the last 2 minutes. Otherwise, if that doesn't happen, if he doesn't make like 7 or 8 threes in a row, the story today is like, I don't know, guys. I think the Knicks could really win this thing. Like, they looked fantastic until that happened.
Yeah, this is much more normal. This is a much more normal place for us to be.
Yeah,
feeling on the ass end of history. When I'm old enough to remember that wearing a seatbelt in a car wasn't always mandated.
Right.
It was a choice. And I remember around the time where they started mandating and it became the law that you had to wear a seatbelt, I was one of those people like, yeah, I don't need to wear a seatbelt. I haven't worn a seatbelt my whole life. And I was of driving age.
Yeah.
And I was dating a girl who was an absolutely terrible driver. But that didn't convince me that I needed to wear a seatbelt. What convinced me to wear a seatbelt was one day I was with this girl and it was raining and she spun out her car and she crashed into a telephone pole and my face hit the windshield. And after that, I was like, I think I'm going to wear a seatbelt. Probably didn't need to have a wreck and my face into a windshield in order for me to wear a seatbelt. Probably just should have done it. And the Knicks really shouldn't need that kind of performance in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals when the Cavs have already done this to other teams in the playoffs so far.
The Pacers.
The Cavs have done historically significant things
Pacers.
in the Pacers against the Cavs and against the Bucks over the first couple of rounds here. So if you don't realize that, and you're going to sit up there and talk about taking your foot off the gas after the game, that tells me that you really weren't paying attention to what it was that the Pacers have done so far this postseason. So, much like me with a seatbelt, they literally had their faces smashed into the windshield. I don't know that they can recover from this, John. I don't. I hope they do. But this is one where, that might have been the series. That might have been the series because you're up 14 with less than 3 minutes to go. You're up 9 by 56, whatever you want to say. There's a bunch of different ways that you could describe all of this failure that happened. And I'm with you. I give credit to the Pacers. They did go on a run. And, as much as it was a ridiculous shot from Halliburton, he hit the shot.
Yeah.
Nesmith, same thing. Never heard of the guy. Apparently, neither had Tom Thibodeau. Because all he kept doing was hitting these open 3-point shots, and he went on one of the great heaters of all time. And we're in the group chat going, why isn't anybody guarding this guy? Some of the isolation offense down the stretch, I think, was problematic as well.
Well, that's the Knicks.
And listen, if you didn't know that they were capable of doing this, as improbable as it was, like I said, these numbers are ridiculous. 970-0 when a team has that kind of lead at that stage of a playoff game. Okay. But, it did happen, and it's always going to happen. And if you're not prepared for it, these are the kind of things that do happen, especially to this franchise. And, I don't know how to explain it. I think it's a breakdown. It's not just a breakdown in terms of, hey, give him credit. He hit a bunch of shots. He hit like 6, 8 threes down, and they did things. They scored, 23 points over the last 3 minutes of regulation? You could give San Diego State like 40 minutes and they couldn't do that. So, it's just an insane thing to watch. And I grant you that it might be completely anonymous, an anomaly. But that being said, if you don't know that Indiana at least is capable of doing absurd things, you haven't been watching this postseason. And I think they got to own that. I think they have to wear that. You could say, well, this is kind of a fluke. Okay. But, you've allowed them to believe that winning and scoring like this, especially late in close games, is kind of been their thing thus far that got them to this point. So for you not to realize that and take your foot off the gas, to me, is just not what I want to hear. It's not what I want to hear.
Yeah, if you're listening to this part of the podcast, you are a paid subscriber, which means you also probably got front row seat delivered to you this morning at the daily newsletter I put together. And I linked in there an article written by Dan Devine, who we had on earlier this week. And to Dan's credit, Knicks fan, he was at the game, he was writing about the game for Yahoo Sports. He could have written about, the total failure of the Knicks and oh my God, is this going to... And he didn't. He went the opposite direction, the direction you were just talking about, and he wrote an article that was basically, how the hell do the Pacers keep doing this? And he has some questions, he got some quotes, and the Pacers players basically said, at this point, it happened because we believe it can. And they're like, and it's not bullshit. We're not like, oh, if we say it's going to... They're like, no, we honest to God... down 12 with 30 seconds left, are like, well, we can still pull this off. We've done this before. And sometimes that belief really matters.
It does. And again, it's not the hallmark of, I think Thibodeau's a good coach, but I just don't know, how you could say up there, we took our foot off the gas. I appreciate Karl Anthony Towns being like, oh, we were the better team for 45 minutes in this game. Great. Good for you. You get nothing for that. You're 3 wins away from elimination, 3 losses away from elimination now. And I don't, I have no idea what to expect. Listen, they caught a couple bad breaks too. They had a 4-point lead in overtime, John. And I thought it was a pretty clear goaltend, but they didn't call it and you can't review it. And that makes it a 6-point game. And instead, what happens? The Pacers go down the court and they hit a 3 and it's a 1-point game. And Brunson was uncharacteristically a bit sloppy, I thought, with the basketball, for as good as he was, and you're not there without him, obviously. But, there were times where it looked like he was struggling with the dribble, the last turnover of the game. These are tough moments there. And
he picked up a lot of fouls early too.
He did.
At the end of it, there was a lot of people going how did this happen? How did this happen? Oh, Aaron Nesmith caught a heater. But I was like, this all started, Brunson picked up his 5th foul.
But they went on a 14-0 run after that.
No. Brunson picks up his 5th foul, and he has to leave the game with 9 minutes left. And the everyone else goes on a 14-0 run, and it's boom, that's it. All you were worried about was the Pacers taking over with Brunson off the court. And then it wasn't, I think it was when Brunson came back in that all of a sudden it seemed like things were turning around and the Pacers got their feet under them. But there was something about Brunson playing with 5 fouls. Him being in the game with 5 fouls. On the bench with 5 fouls, they were able to manage. But in the game with 5 fouls seemed like it was a problem, and you could tell Brunson was trying to hide on defense. He would come down on defense every time, and he would kind of run to the corner, and even if that wasn't his man in the corner, he would take that man and tell whoever else, hey, go guard my guy, because, I can't guard Halliburton, or I can't guard Nesmith because I got 5 fouls. And once that's your number one priority, is not picking up a foul on defense, and you're rejiggering your whole defense to try and hide Brunson, and the Pacers are trying to bring him into action, and he's getting nervous, and they're doing double switches, triple switches to try and keep him out of the action. That's when you can really, really screw up your defense. And I it's not so much that they didn't respect Aaron Nesmith's 3-point shooting, although I guess it would be fair. He's not an incredible knockdown 3-point shooter.
Yeah, but when he hits a couple, maybe it's time to pay a little bit more attention.
Yeah, but
right? Because you're okay, why don't we guard that guy?
But I think it was more that they were like, hey, we're going to get Brunson in action. We're going to wait for that scramble moment where they've made 2 or 3 switches. Someone is off of someone. We're going to find that open guy, and either he's going to shoot or we're going to move the ball until we get a good shot off it. But Brunson getting those 5 fouls was a big reason why the Knicks lost that game.
Yeah, and it also put Thibodeau in a situation where he's subbing people in and out based on offense defense.
Yeah.
So it just is it impacts a little bit of the rhythm of the game.
Yep.
The rhythm of the game is somehow impacted. I know by this stage of a season and by this stage of all of these players in their careers, it shouldn't, maybe not a seamless thing, but it shouldn't be it shouldn't look as wonky as it seemingly did. And I just thought too down the stretch, they just kind of were like, whatever. It's there's like no real structure to what it is that we're going to do when we have the ball because we have this big lead and it's cool. Like Towns can take a 25-foot shot, even though it's kind of a bad shot. And Brunson, he did hit a 3 to put the team up, 10 or 12 or whatever.
They've been like this all year, late in games.
I understand, but it's not how they got to that point in the game, though, John. I mean, the game was different. That's not how they got to that point in the game.
I agree.
And what was making them successful in the game is really what they went away from. I know that they do that during the regular season. I know that they don't have an offense that's necessarily identifiable on a game and game out basis. I know it. I watch it more than anybody. But, like in that game, they just kind of stopped doing it. They just were kind of like, whatever, 7 on the shot clock. Who cares? 25 feet. This one's in the bank anyway. Let's just put up a shot. And the Pacers would get it. It created no offensive rebounds. The Knicks, seemingly were doing pretty well. And it just gave them so many outlets and odd man runs. And it just, and then watching Josh Hart fall down all over the place. I love Josh Hart.
What was with the slippery floor?
I don't know. What was going on? Did he need a new sneaker?
He slipped and fell. Mikal Bridges, I think, slipped and fell in an important play towards the end of the fourth quarter.
Here's the conversation on the group chat. Here's the conversation. Let's see.
Because good, I was about to ask a question for the group chat. So
the group chat wants, would it have been better had Tyrese Halliburton's shot just been a 3? Just so we didn't have to suffer through overtime, and I would agree with that.
That's literally the text you sent me last night. It's like right as soon as it went in and it was a rule to 2, you were like, I wish that was a 3 so that I wouldn't have to sit here and suffer through overtime. Question for the group chat. If there's a Mount Rushmore of players... We'll stick with basketball. Players that Madison Square Garden hates the most. Villains. Madison Square Garden is good at villainy. Reggie Miller's definitely up there, right?
Yeah, he's number 1.
He's number 1. Number 2 is Trae Young, maybe? Trae Young really... at that one series, he was a good villain.
I mean, are we just going to completely ignore Larry Bird? Are we going to completely ignore Charles Barkley? Are we going to completely ignore, when Barkley was with the Sixers and some of that stuff that went on and some of that nonsense? Are we going to ignore some of the Miami Heat guys, Alonzo Mourning?
I was going to mention, yeah. No, my question is, wait, who was the other guy?
Reggie's number 1.
No, who was the guy on the Heat? PJ Brown?
PJ Brown.
God,
the one who took Charlie Ward and flipped him into the stands during a playoff game where the whole Knicks team got suspended. That was another terrible postseason loss. The whole team got suspended because they walked off the bench trying to get out of a fight, and we all got suspended in that game.
Is Tyrese Halliburton in this conversation yet? Because it seemed like
so.
Going into it, I actually linked on
He's
front row seats.
Likable.
He's very likable. He's such a nice guy. And you were
even
pointing
the
out
choke thing. I don't object to that at all.
The choke thing was fun. It showed that he respected basketball history to me. That he did the choke thing. He pointed at Reggie.
We hate having to listen to Reggie much more than we hate having to watch Tyrese Halliburton.
And you and me were talking about, they had that sound clip where Halliburton was talking about how much he loves Mitchell Robinson. Yeah. And he's like, God, I love that guy. He's just arms for days. He doesn't even have to jump. So he's so likable that he's not a villain yet. See, I linked a thing a few days ago. He did a WWE show, him and Brunson, that was at MSG. And it ended with Halliburton telling the MSG crowd, like, don't let me come back here. You don't want to see me back here in the playoffs. I'll rip your heart out. And I was like, between that and the choke thing, like, you would think in your head, MSG hates this guy. They want to watch him die. But I don't think so. I think you're right. I think he's so likable.
Maybe because I'm older, I don't have that kind of venom to me anymore, that I only hate, these villains from the time, where I was living it every single day in the 90s. And it was Rick Smits, and it was, all of those kind of players, and all the Bulls players and all that, I mean,
Rick Smits was likable?
The Duncan Dutchman?
The Duncan Dutchman.
No. I mean, Dale Davis, Antonio Davis, all those kind of guys, all the Pistons,
Mark
hated
Jackson.
all the Pistons. Bill Laimbeer, I saw him up in wine country once. I swear I just wanted to sock him in the mouth. So, I mean, those are the guys that, like, to me, maybe I'm older and a little softer, and now I'm just much more acutely aware of the pain, that I just think that this experience is much more about the pain than it is about the anger and the venom.
Fair.
Maybe, but I don't even see it on the group chat. The group chat is a lot younger than I am, and I don't see them really shit-talking on Halliburton. They don't like Trae Young, obviously. And I got to say, having to listen to Reggie Miller, there's got to be an alternate broadcast out there somewhere, right? And it's just... I always think, sometimes when it's Joe Davis, who won an Emmy, by the way, the other day, Sports Emmy, when he's on the call for a Fox National game and it's Padres Dodgers, I know that really irritates a lot of people in Padre land. And I'm always like, is it that big of a deal? And I don't know, is it? But this irritates me. Like just having to listen to him and what it is that he represents. I don't know. I have an issue with it. I don't like it. It's not part of it's not a good experience. And I don't know if that shot last night of him pointing, I don't know if that literally came from last night's broadcast or if that came from some other time. But I, of course, got treated to several of those pictures on social media.
Wait, which one? Well, pointing at what? Who was pointing at what?
Well, I think what's being implied here is that he was pointing at Tyrese Halliburton.
Well, so
I don't know that.
Halliburton did the choke thing, and then
Reggie.
And then he pointed at Reggie. I'm
Right.
assuming Reggie was just pointing back at him. No?
Is that the shot? You know which one I'm talking about? I don't even know if this is what he was wearing last night, but
I don't think I saw a picture.
I'm
going to
text it to you right now.
Text it to me right now. I don't know if I
because then it's sort of like I understand Reggie Miller can't do anything from the broadcast location with Kevin Harlan and Stan Van Gundy, but it really does kind of just.
He's Mr. Pacer, right? Like,
it gets under your skin a little bit.
There's a statue of anyone in front of their arena, there would be a statue of Reggie Miller. So yeah, it's a little biased. It's not great.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, this is just sort of the life of a Knicks fan. It's just always on the ass end of this stuff, always.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of people who for years and years and years have said that like the way that Tibbs coaches a team, it'll win you a lot of games, but at the end of the playoffs, you need something else, and his teams often don't have that second gear, third gear. If they end up losing this series, I imagine that talk's going to get a lot louder.
Well, it's understandable to think that is the kind of loss that costs you a series. I mean, it's premature. I understand that. And the Knicks are certainly capable of winning a game in Indianapolis. They've done it plenty of times before.
Even if they win game 2, yeah.
Yeah, but it really, it just does feel like the kind of like wasted opportunity that you just can't give a game like that away unless, this group of New York Knicks, somehow it really does turn into a learning lesson and they put the seatbelt on and they don't go face first into the fucking windshield again. You know
how good callback. Do you know how many threes Jalen Brunson hit last night?
I don't. I know he had 7 turnovers.
He went 1 for 6 from 3.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to do that again either.
Yeah, probably not. But, whether he does or doesn't, is that even the point? And that's the thing I'm not so sure of. Like I said, it just feels so catastrophic. Thankfully, it happened in game 1, because if something like that happens in a clinching game,
you're done
then
for years.
It's just like, it's time to stop rooting.
Yeah.
There's only so much a human being should be exposed to in their lifetime. And I've rattled off 5 of them off the top of my head that I can remember that have impacted me in a way where I'm kind of curious to know if I'm just numb to this at this point. And it's certainly a possibility. I might just be numb to it all.
If Tibbs ends up being out after this, me and you, I'll have T-shirts made. We're going to run the campaign. Get Jeff Van Gundy back to the Knicks. He runs the same system, so you keep the same players. He was an assistant coach with the Clippers this year, very successful one, and we know New York loves him. Get Jeff Van Gundy back to the Knicks, but not until the series is over, and hopefully the Knicks end up winning the series and going to the Eastern Conference Finals. No, this is going to the finals, and then we don't have to worry about it.
And then there is that sentiment too, that just getting to the finals was an accomplishment for this group.
I think so.
But we talked to Dan the other day, and Dan's like, yeah, it's wide open. Any of these teams can win it. And, as dumb as it is, you allow your mind to start wandering a little bit and start thinking, wow, I just watched Crystal Palace win. I just watched Tottenham win something.
Barca.
Maybe. Well, Barca's, they win all the time. But, like I said, the pressure of Barcelona is like you have to win everything. Where with all these other teams that I root for, you're just trying to win something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the Padres are just trying to win something. The Knicks are just trying to win something.
Yeah.
And, it just felt like that was such a huge step back. But thank you for letting me get it all out of my system. I'm kind of oscillating back and forth between despondency and es lo que hay. It is what it is. This is just the way. This is just what we signed up for. This is our lot in life. This is who we are. But
do you have big plans for Friday? You gonna go watch the game in a bar? You gonna watch it at home with the wife? You gonna make something special?
Well, because we have a 1:30 kick on Saturday, I will just stay home on Friday night. And, if I have a broadcast the next day for SDFC, I won't drink. So I will somehow get through that game without a cocktail. But I won't, especially for a day game, I won't even have a glass of wine. So we'll probably just eat and stay home. And, I'll sit there and go through the group chat and see how everybody's doing.
Hopefully it's a better result.
I hope it's a good series, but then again, you're also the longer the series goes, as the saying is, it's the hope that kills you. So I don't want to start believing in this team because, like I said, that's much more today is much more the default setting of Knicks fandom than it is when they were up 14, going, oh my God. Wow, this is amazing. How do they match up against Oklahoma City?
Yeah, right. I felt like I was watching that game with you, not because of your text messages, because those were coming in randomly, but watching that game with my wife, a newly adopted New York Knicks fan, because the Pacers would do something amazing. Halliburton making the shot. Halliburton had some incredible passes. Neesmith making every shot that he took. And I would just sit there like, wow! Oh my God, what a game. And every time my wife would just turn to me and Rrr! And I was like, okay, all right. Knicks fans don't want to hear about this.
We did not. And I will say to you now, I don't want to hear that either. I don't want to hear how great of a game it was. I don't.
That's fair.
Because, it was only a great game because one team completely cratered. And I know which team it was. And even though I'm claiming to be used to it and numb to it all, and I've got thick skin, I've got a callus from all the sort of losing, it still was the first thing I thought about this morning when I woke up and stared at the ceiling, like, oh God, again, why do I allow myself to do this? I don't know. I don't get it. All right, that's a wrap. Looks like the Padres have done some things that are good, so hopefully we'll have something fun to talk about. We're going to be at Mason Ale Works in Barrio Logan on Friday, so we invite everybody to come hang out with us. Maybe we'll buy you a beer. I don't know that we have a time. They open at noon, but
we're usually there at noon, right?
Yeah, we'll be there at noon tomorrow. And thanks to Ben Forman, and thanks to everybody at Fair Play. That was really an unexpectedly fun afternoon as John and I were just cruising around looking for lunch. We ended up getting burritos next door, but the food at Fair Play is really top drawer. So happy about that. And we'll be back on Friday. And if you want to hang out with us, I can't promise you it's going to be the most exciting afternoon of your life. But if you want to watch a couple of dorks podcasting, we're going to be at Mason Ale Works in Barrio Logan. So we'll see you there on Friday.